represent?
Represent.
It's about representation.
Diversity.
It did mean so much.
I'm the first Latino guy with a brownish skin color making YouTube videos in English for English-speaking audiences. Subscribe to my channel if you're an ally of the representation in our media. Oh, I'm not the first or the only one? And you don't like what I said? That's okay, because it's the same Disney's doing with the MCU, and it's exactly what's going on with Wakanda Forever. Sure, they have infinitely more money than I have, and marketing resources are ready to convince you that their subpar content represents cultural events rather than silly explosions. I'll say it like this: Disney is turning their MCU entertainment into a religion. The cult-following status of Disney movies has been going on for years. We can easily notice it when conversations around their products become about politics, race, and society rather than the product itself.
If you really want to prove to Black people that you love us and you care about us and you are down for the cause, do not go see that movie opening
This
weekend.
happens because it works as a religion. We can understand a religion as a system of faith and worship. It's a dogma with a set of institutionalized beliefs and attitudes. And the ultimate goal is the pursuit of something with a perceived notion of supreme importance. I am sorry for the word. So let me simplify it. Disney is the place to worship. MCU content is supremely important, and consumers must worship current product. Consuming is not enough anymore.
Excited for next product.
The MCU dogma has two elements. Firstly, you have to praise whenever there is a non-white man in front or behind the camera. Secondly, followers must believe MCU movies and shows are cultural events bringing forward advancements for society. Funnily enough, the dogma is not consistent, and it exists to sell content that is often not very good. In their religious zeal, the media believes they have the power to shape society. Their influence comes through inclusion and diversity, which are part of a larger category, representation. By representing different parts of the United States community, they have the freedom to say how these parts of the community act and what they can or can't do. For example, in the MCU, black characters were relegated to sidekicks and Latino characters to funny sidekicks until now. The contrary to this belief would be the idea that stories can teach through their themes, lessons, and messages. For example, The Lord of the Rings is a discourse about hope and goodwill overcoming corruption and temptation. Nevertheless, Disney teaches through their casting choices, and the type and range of their stories depend on the religion, gender, and race of the characters they pick.
Black Panther is the perfect frame for representation.
Disney has constantly spun the idea of representation, which is how audiences can feel more connected to a character if the character looks like them in terms of race and gender. They are talking about representation limited to their IPs, Western stories they want to tell, and the United States way of understanding reality. It's also a representation within the entertainment monopoly of Disney and Hollywood studios. But outside of their grip, every culture and country has its forms of expression, like movies, shows, music, books, sports, and events. Diversity and representation can be important. It can widen up our perspective, give voices to invisible issues, and tell fun stories across different cultures. Moreover, minorities who feel less because they are different can see representation as a validation of what makes them different. That is what Disney MCU offers. The representation has nothing to do with the real world. While it can make people happy, it doesn't represent any real change other than the money Disney is making. Disney's representation is a stroke to the ego. It revolves around creators imagining you, a regular person, in fiction rather than the other way around. It's obsessing about oneself without considering the values you or the characters have to offer, and particularly, Wakanda represents Western selfishness. Wakanda takes its design from African futurism, a sci-fi subgenre that imagines the maximum potential of an African nation as a consequence of not suffering through colonialism. The term comes from 1993's Black to the Future by American writer Mark Derry, and it's about blending African tribal motifs with sci-fi imagination.
It's all about the question, what if? Still, not all science fiction has the same ancestral bloodline.
The genre focuses on the positive, while Wakanda Forever focuses on non-diverse, authoritarian, selfish, and ethnocentric cultures. Ethnocentrism is based on the belief that one group tribe, culture, or nationality is superior to others. So rather than positive, we get a country that is angry and secretive as they are technologically advanced. Here's a quote that explains the idea I'm presenting. It comes from scholars Gottfried Asantia and Gloria and Siva Pindip from San Diego State University. I read. Wakanda's isolation from the rest of Africa strongly mirrors Western ethnocentrism rather than an African society. African culture worldviews include wholeness, community, and harmony with the collective others beyond one's immediate vicinity. Wakanda remained secluded for centuries, and once they decided to open to the world, they built an embassy in the United States. What about the rest of Africa? Wakanda may look sound and dress like them, but they don't care. Disney had an opportunity to display the struggles of other African countries, such as the movie Blood Diamond. But Wakanda's Africanism is just a superficial blend of rites, apparels, and languages from other African cultures and countries, without any rhyme or reason. And for all they care about their neighboring countries, they could be in space, and it wouldn't make a difference. It's an uncaring country concerned about harnessing power for itself. In fact, T'Challa's opening to the world by the end of Black Panther 1 is seen in the sequel as a mistake. That's a dire contrast with real-world Africa, as it has some of the most generous countries on our planet. Africans are 3 times more likely to help strangers or donate money than people from other places. African countries rank at the top of the most generous nations in the world, and the entire region has taken more refugees than developed continents. Wakanda is more like, fuck you! And by the way, fuck T'Challa too, according to Disney. Some people feel represented by characters because of their struggles, values, and actions. Others prefer physical similarity. In any case, T'Challa and Chadwick Boseman could do both. In Disney's religious canon, he was critical. They sold him as the first MCU black hero. But he was not the first. The title goes to 1998's Blade.
Surprise, motherfucker!
Nevertheless, Boseman took the role seriously. He became a role model for young black Americans, and he took the mantle with humility and seriousness.
Yeah, it means a lot.
On screen, portrayed T'Challa with a series of masculine and kingly attitudes that are hard to find elsewhere on the MCU. He had dignity, grace, compassion, warmth, bravery, respect, wiseness, and fierceness. Also, Boseman's action stunts, physical shape, acting, and accent were top tier, and all of that while he was fighting a silent battle against cancer. What an absolute class act. T'Challa and Wakanda also represent different ways of portraying African and black cultures. He's the king of a futuristic, powerful, rich, colorful, and yet oddly tribalistic African country. Boseman's demise was unfortunate and sudden, and the movie deals with it with respect. Nevertheless, they present T'Challa as the culprit of the new conflict. We'll get to that later. In T'Challa's absence, we've got 2 genius black female heroes and a queen. The strong and stern Black Panther became a tiny actress that relies completely on CGI for her action scenes. She looks like she can barely stand, let alone fight. Given the MCU's current pattern, this could have happened even if Chadwick Boseman was alive. According to Disney's system of beliefs, without a positive black man in their lineup, there's no more representation of male blackness, because this guy doesn't count.
You've got to do better, Senator.
No, you've got to do better. Look, even a left-leaning black male creator said it.
And so the absence of that idealized black masculine figure is still missed.
Let me finish this section with a question. Does representation go the other way around? Perhaps you won't like the content if you don't see yourself on screen, because the main audience for Wakanda Forever is USA men. So if you're not a Latino, and if you're not the 38% female audience that saw the first movie, I guess you can still praise Wakanda's cultural achievements. Disney, alongside many Western studios, employ great exaggeration to add importance to their content. Their shows and movies achieve
social advancement,
and your job is to understand and support your cultural leaders by paying your entertainment taxes. These milestones come in 2 ways, being the first at something and the political messages included in their narratives. It's obvious that Wakanda Forever is the first female-led superhero movie. Variety is nice because it opens the way to other narratives and a wider talent pool, but MCU Phase 4 feels like a massive overcorrection. At the very least, it's weird seeing 10 women per each man in Wakanda, and none of these men are particularly competent. While it's on par with MCU Phase 4, I'm left with a lingering preoccupation for the reproductive future of the fictional country.
This isn't about you.
Oh, by the way, this is also the first MCU movie featuring Latin actors in main roles. It represents my heritage, apparently, and it's on par with the political messages. Here's the part where I explain the plot. Wakanda is facing uncertainty after T'Challa's death. While they are grieving, they gain a new enemy, the hidden kingdom of Taloka and the ruler Namor. They are angry at Wakanda because they showed vibranium to the world, and it's T'Challa's fault. In MCU canon, the world already knew about vibranium during the reign of T'Challa's father, T'Chaka.
Follow what comes out of Wakanda.
The strongest metal on Earth.
What's it made of?
Vibranium. It's stronger than steel and a third the weight.
Whatever, don't think. Namor tries to convince the queen and the princess to band together and murder the entire world. Or else. After all, both Wakanda and Taloka are racist societies. Both are angry against the Western colonizer countries and their exploitation of poorer nations. Cool. The creator of these ideas is a massive entertainment conglomerate. They faced several complaints for using sweatshops in Asian countries for their merchandise since 1996. In their own backyard, they have workers in their parks earning less than minimum wage for full-time jobs. I guess we could say they colonized their employees.
So it's free in most universes, actually. It's weird you guys have to pay for it.
The movie is also not consistent with itself. Wakanda pretends to be moralistic and against colonialism. However, in the MCU canon, Wakanda stayed secluded and secret for centuries, and they never used their might to fight colonial power or help other African nations. In the sequel, the new queen does not uphold to lawful standards. The country breaks treaties, trespasses foreign territory, and makes dire mistakes. They can forgive themselves, but not others. Wakanda is angry and unreliable. But what are they going to do? Because I find it hard to believe that a nation with an army of rhinos and spears is as powerful as the movie says they are. Alright, they can deflect bullets with spears. Sure, the best movies have done that. Let me end this section with a quote from Disney's CEO, showcasing how he sees representation as a means of making money.
I felt that it was time for Marvel storytelling to much better reflect the world we were doing business in. I'm a big believer in that, whether you call it diversity or inclusion. But the bottom line is that doing so is good for commerce. The world is obviously multicolored, multi-natured, multifaceted. The more we infuse...
If it's just a means of making money, as Disney is, after all, a corporation, why are they adding so much political meaning to it? Because on top of all of this, Wakanda Forever is incredibly racist against white people and themselves. They hate white people, they call them colonizers, and they treat them like trash, even their friends and allies like Everett Ross.
This man is a foreign intelligence operative. How do we justify bringing him into our borders?
He took a bullet for me.
That was his choice.
So now we are just supposed to let him die.
Let us consider that.
Fuck you!
At least that is consistent with Disney's new religion of racial segregation. But then, why is Wakanda so tribalistic? The first movie has death matches to decide the king, foreign tribes fighting with spears, and the evil black man from the hood. Hilarious. Then, the second movie has black people who can swim, Wakandian men making monkey sounds for no reason, fatherless kids, and a technology that requires drumming on some bongos. I guess regular buttons are for colonizers. It's as if Western creators, even if they are black, have trouble picturing Africa as something else than a National Geographic cover. If we go past this politics, could it be entertaining? The positive side, it starts and ends with powerful scenes showcasing deep respect for Chadwick Boseman. Similarly, the movie takes itself seriously with a deep focus on grief, vengeance, responsibility, and redemption. Moreover, I can see the effort in the acting and direction.
You give 110%!
The enemy, Namor, and the Talocan Empire present an otherworldly menace. However, Namor is another genocidal maniac the MCU tries to sell as sympathetic. On the bad side, the story gets a bit silly with its incredible focus on women. Everything accommodates to their pleasure, so the plot's driving force is coincidences. For example, the queen didn't have to go through a trial by combat. And look at these guns, she could have won. But the action is not very good either. Although the staff has amazing stunt doubles, battles rely on heavy CGI, choppy editing, and silly choreographies. And seriously, Shuri looks ridiculously skinny. Would it be sexist to get stronger for an action role? At least, Shuri has a journey where she abandons vengeance in favor of mercy and understanding. At the last minute, where have I seen that? However, the various women in the movie present similar traits. They are either annoyed girl geniuses or paragons of justice and loyalty, and everyone loves them.
I love that girl.
Even so, it's easy to admit that the main trio, Ramonda, Okoye, and Shuri, are good characters. I'd say Okoye is one of the best characters in Marvel Phase 4. Lastly, the plot is convoluted, messy, and full of exposition dumps. The movie wanted to do too many things at once and ultimately rushed to the final battle. And let's not talk about her, because on her first couple of scenes, she defunded the police. What a hero. You tell me, would you watch this? Did you see it? Did you like it? I see it as a mixed bag of qualities and mistakes, but an overall less than okay and barely entertaining product. I'm tired. While I was doing this video, Disney's CEO Bob Chapek was ousted, and the company brought back former CEO Robert Iger. During this time, Chapek said something on an interview that adds to this conversation.
People have such a deep-founded relationship with Disney. Frankly, they don't even look at it as a company. They look at it as something that's part of their lives.
Yeah, part of their identity.
Yeah,
really,
part of their identity.
It's not all Disney's fault, or the media. Consumers are also awarding Disney the power to shape who they are, just as much as our culture, family, education, and religion. These four are the typical pillars of society, and they can teach us how to become a good person and give us the tools to become independent and achieve goals. Entertainment can make us feel things, inspire us, motivate us. We can like movies and shows. We can fall in love with the stories and characters. But we should not worship, blindly defend, and idolize man-made products, because it leaves us open to manipulation. And what do you think corporations concerned with infinite money and growth can do with the power of influencing people? Entertainment is not a dogma to follow and not an achievement to praise. The MCU is not a religion. If you decide to skip religion because you believe it does more harm than good, don't trade it for the blob of values left-wing governments and massive corporations keep pushing. Personally, I find that believing in something greater than yourself, like God, is natural for humans. Without God, people are left with a hole, and while it might be an unconscious emptiness, people will try to fill it with other attachments. Entertainment, politics, astrology, activism, veganism, corporations, and similar can do this. Any system of beliefs, any patterns of messages with a massive reach can heavily affect people who don't already have a solid ground to stand on. A solid ground could be God, but also your family, strong values, a purpose, a passion, or whatever you use to keep you focused. In the end, you and I could disagree, but we don't have to turn this into a conversation about race. And we don't have to, subscribe to this channel, or you're brown cis. You get it? Because I'm brown. That's it, friends. Join the conversation and keep the comments section civilized. Lastly, if you like my content, subscribe, keep around, and maybe tip me on Buy Me A Coffee. Thank you very much.